Good afternoon, Steve. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Ready to
All
go.
right.
Raring to go, man.
Mm,
2026. So I'm pumped.
yes, for 1099's.
For 1099s, I'm double pumped because we all know how we love 1099s.
I don't mind 1099's, obviously. I used to do payroll a lot in GP, so I don't mind them. However, we haven't decided what I'm calling this segment, but this was a kind of a little bit of we have two segments. So for all of the people viewing, we have two segments. We have one that I did with Alyssa and Vanya today on our team meeting, which I had to record because it was a comedy routine. Because I kind of took it upon myself. I met with Alexander the beginning of December and trying to do this 1099 stuff. I finally sat down and was like, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna understand it. And as I said in the video, I feel like we had at least three relatively intelligent people, and I've been beating my head against the desk for like 2 days. And we've had some team in El Salvador go through and try to do the same thing. So what we're doing this for is I'm going to walk through what I understood, and Steve is going to correct me, which he's going to love doing. I am going to see, because we look through the documentation, I've watched videos, I've done all of this stuff, and I'm still just like, this seems insane to me. I'm glad I got ready for this segment though, because otherwise I would have really been saying that this is insane, because it just took me basically a lot of research to really try to figure this out. So my thought is, with customers, right? We have customers who are doing this. And for these customers to be able to figure this out on their own is very difficult. So hopefully your partner is helping you. If they're not, I'm hoping that this video will give you guys a little bit of insight. And it's funny because I did have a customer today that we were doing 1099s with, and we were walking through these procedures. And it kind of came about being funny that this customer, I said, well, this is, relatively intuitive. And they just went, I'm just letting you know right now, this is not intuitive at all.
Hopefully, we'll change their mind.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure, was it me? Was it me that the way that I was leading them through it, that it just, it was weird? Or is it really just that not intuitive? And I know that I just kind of feel like it's not. What's your opinion?
I mean, I will say this. I think some of the documentation, like other Microsoft documentation, might be
Mhm.
not as detailed as it should be for the novice person. And then what I mean by the novice person is, not
Not
everything is
Tanya.
okay. We'll go with that. Not Tanya.
Not Tanya, hopefully.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's all right. The documentation is correct.
Mhm.
It's just that I think this process needs more of a very simplistic layman way of just describing what to do to get it set up. And then after that, you're done. And that's
Mhm.
where I think it kind of maybe missed the mark. I think
Yeah.
maybe as I've been talking about things for a while now, you know, I kind of take the approach of showing, I've always showed the screens, like let's do the screens, like walk through the
Mhm.
screens and see how easy it is. And, I've always felt that it needs to be a very bland explanation because let me tell you, there are some things that
Mhm.
are just not that they're complicated, but they don't make sense sometimes in the way it was written and that people
Mhm.
kind of miss the mark. So you are correct. I mean, I've had people call me up, I've had people email me about
Mhm.
it. And yeah, I think it needs to take a different approach, hopefully soon, maybe for those who are implementing it for the next quarter, who haven't even implemented it yet, or they're going to implement it very soon.
Right. Well, and they also really, customers are going to have to implement this, right? If they're not on 27 today,
Hmm.
right, when they get upgraded to 27, this is going to be the whole new, this is it, right? This is how it's going to
It,
work.
it's basically, I hate saying it. It's like if you've been upgraded to 27,
Mm.
you're in it. But the
You're in
sad
it.
part is
Yeah.
you're in it. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can't reverse, but you have to follow the implementation immediately, or else you'll never meet your 131/26 deadline to get the 1099s out in the new format,
Hmm.
and also get the 1099s uploaded to the IRS, which it doesn't take long. It's only a few days to get the IDs, but the fact that you have to do it, you now have to do it if you're at 27.
Right. And the other thing that I was saying, the reason I was also saying that if you get upgraded to 27, let's say you've got your 1099s done, right? But now you're starting 26, right? You're starting doing your payables in 26, and 2026 was what I mean, the year, right? And so in the year of 2026, and now I get upgraded to version 27 of Business Central, then now I'm looking at my 1099s and I look at and I'm going to show it. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. But if we look at that vendor card, right? And this is where our customer had called and was quite confused, is that the vendor card now, right, will have this new look down here in the 1099 area, right? So we're going to have the new reporting period, the form number, and the form boxes. And then we also have that emailing consent, right? Which that right now you have to ask your vendor separately, right? In an email. That is what you should be doing and saying, hey, is it okay if I send you, maybe you send them an email. Hey, is it okay if I send you your 1099 via email? Then you will click that consent and you'll need to make sure that you put a email address in there also. So, so that looks different. And so our customer called and said, "These are grayed out. How do I get this in there?" Right? So this started off on, like I said, a tangent over the last 2 days. I feel like Steve Endo that I've, gone off on the deep end on this one, but I kind of have. um and I'm creating a new sandbox because I want to replicate, I was telling Steve, I want to replicate kind of what we did today. And so I'm going to walk through it from what I know. Steve's going to be the expert, as I said, and I want to understand, what am I doing right or wrong? Okay. Um, so in my opinion, I would not be starting at the vendor card, right? I would be starting at my tell me and going into, if you go into this 1099 area, which we're all used to, right? We had this 1099 form boxes we've been used to forever. That particular one will tell you it's gone, right? Go use the new feature. And then you're like, what does that mean? What would be really nice on that box, Microsoft, is go use the new feature. Here's the link to set it up. Just saying. Um, so I kind of went in, and what we did today, and I had done this, of course, I looked at this thing that said, great, upgrade my IRS 1099 data. That sounds like a good idea, right? And I clicked it today, and I had clicked it previously and it didn't work at all. So I did it today. It came in. There's a what's called a reporting period you now have to do, right? And you have to set that up. But that particular one gets set up. I think it got set up automatically. So I chose it and then I just hit okay. And it came back and was like, this is what I've gotten for the last few days, right? Was no data was transferred. And I'm like, what does that mean? It meant no data was transferred is what it means. It means it didn't work. Today, randomly, you'll see in our video, it actually worked. And it took people who were 1099s and it moved them over into the 1099 setup. So we finally felt like we were getting somewhere. So then essentially I just kind of went in and said, I'm going to go through all of these different setups, right? I'm going to look at the form boxes, the form box setups and adjustments. And when I did this from that upgrade, it started to really make sense to me, right? Um, However, this takes me to the IRS form documents, right? Which technically has nothing in there if I don't create this, right? So it's blank. Looked confusing to me.
You run the assisted setup and it'll create it for you.
Right. And I did see that in a video. So if I go to the assisted setup, thank you, Steve. So I'll go into the assisted setup and I think I can just type in IRS at the top, I think here too. And it will do that. So there's set up a IRS forms feature. Okay. So you'll do that. Okay. So then I would then say next. It's going to put that reporting year. You're going to put the reporting year, hitting next. I would protect the vendor and company VINs personally. I think that's a cool new feature. And then your business information. And then, of course, just hitting next and hitting finish. And that technically should set those things up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, it was funny because as I was showing somebody later, I was trying to get back to the IRS setup window, and I can't remember the name of that window because unfortunately, when you type in 1099 up here in the tell me, it does not bring up that window.
No. And the only way to get back to the main place from now on is going to be the IRS 1099 reporting period. It's kind of like the
Okay.
core now because the old way is just irrelevant. and
Mhm.
everything will breathe from the IRS reporting period. So that's kind of where all of the setups occur, or at least you'll sit there and set it up, and then it'll be like one and done after you set it up.
And how do I get into it, Steve?
You type IRS, you can type IRS space REP.
And look at that though, right? You would think it would be 1099. So for all of you other people out there that are confused, yep, me too. So IRS reporting period. So if you don't see something when you type in 1099, there is also much more administration that is in there with the word IRS.
Yeah. The word IRS became the replacement of the kind of the hypothetical word 1099 from old NAV days, and it won't go back. It'll just keep saying IRS from now on.
Yes. So don't do what I did and just typed in 1099 and thought you were going to get all the setup windows because you won't. So this is where you'll set up the IRS reporting periods, right? And it sets up my start and my end date. This is where when it finally worked for me, I was like, okay, now I feel like it's making sense because I thought I was going to have to set these all up manually, which I was like, this is dumb. But so now I will see there's 4 different types, right? And then under each of the types, I will see what the actual form boxes are for that. So it's super cool. Love this once I figured out and got it to work. So that made sense to me. Obviously, copy setup. My thought on this, Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, is pretty much every year going forward, once this is set up, the only thing I should have to do going forward is come in and copy the setup to the
Yep.
next year.
It's the coolest thing that just came out in
Hmm.
27.2, where you
Yes.
have the ability now to, after you finish your year and you're done with, say, January 2020, let's say December 2026,
Hmm.
you'll go in, you'll click copy, you'll set up 2027. And
Yep.
it copies everything over the vendors, the structure, the forms. So you'll get everything. And it's a one and done thing. You don't have to sit there and kind of pull your hair out, like you said, manually adding things to the system.
Believe me, I seriously thought I was going to have to manually do that. And what was interesting is I went to the help and the help said none of this. I
Uh,
really,
it's not there
so,
yet.
yeah.
That's why I think one of the solutions, I think hopefully soon, is that the learn of 1099 will just have more of a layman version of it,
A
like
step
we
by
talked
step.
about.
Yeah, exactly what I'm doing here. Yep. So you can see that it did copy all of my records over, which is awesome for 2027. And so then I would see that down there in 2027, right? I do see right here, of course, 2 forms. It's just another way to get to those forms. I clicked on the forms over here. And then, of course, I will have the vendor setup. So, right, I will need to go into the vendor setup, and I can do this from the vendor, or I can do this from the vendor card, or I could do that in here, right? So I'll go through that on the vendor card too. So, and then we have the adjustments, right? So this is if you're going live in the middle of the year, you can come in, you can put an adjustment in this window, right?
And you can do a config patch to this special
Mhm.
subtable. So for people who have volume and don't want to do it manually, like maybe they have 50 vendors that they type in, there's a
Yep.
config pack to this table. So just fill it out quickly and config pack it in.
And the other thing we did today, because the customer said exactly that to me, is you can also copy and paste in this window.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, so that's what we did today too for them. So there's my adjustments. Of course, I would see this is my documents, my 1099 form documents. So I'm going to ask this will kind of again go into a little bit more. Um, and then the other thing that I did notice is I think it's probably on the different page where I can edit. It is actually on these pages here where I can edit the statement or edit the instructions. I'm scratching my head for 2 reasons of why.
I would never change that, and I'll explain why.
I wouldn't
So
either.
when this first came out, where they were rebuilding the forms and the boxes and the structure, and the
Mhm.
fact that everything is e-filed, the
Mhm.
language of the e-filed document follows both the form, the box, and the instructions. So unless the IRS changes it legally, you really can't change the e-file because it's going to reprint this, and it has to follow what the IRS regulates on 1099s. Those forms now are
Mhm.
not that ugly box we used to buy at Staples anymore. It's a
Right.
very small e-file email, and it's a
Mhm.
PDF, so it has to follow these rules. So therefore, there's no reason to. If IRS comes out with a change, because Microsoft is now a provider of 1099s
Mhm.
through the ERP, the
Yep.
update will come immediately. So any month, if it happens in July, we'll get an update in July.
Yep. And I would assume if you made changes to these, they would probably get overwritten, would be my guess.
Oh yeah, in 2 seconds.
Yeah. So yeah, I would never change these, but obviously you can edit those, but I honestly wouldn't. So yeah,
Yeah.
just a little bit of information about that. Okay. So coming out of my IRS reporting periods, right? I have my form documents here. I'm going to come out and I'm going to go into my vendor for just a second. So I've got my Amazon vendor here. If I go into that, I happened upon this today too because I was looking for recurring purchase lines, and we went in here and I was like, "Holy crud! Look, there's 1099 set up right there."
Yeah, it's hidden.
So yeah, so we went into here for my customer who was brand new. What was interesting is they didn't have anything in here until we went in and said suggest. And then when we said suggest and okay, all of our vendors got updated with all of our reporting period numbers.
Yeah, it's one of the funny things is if you're doing it from the vendor card, most
Hmm.
likely it's a new vendor. That's why you go in there. They wouldn't be in there. But one of the steps that kind of is during your
Odd.
process when you were making your steps, you know how you were walking through your steps?
Hmm.
So when you got to vendor setup and it was blank, you can run the suggest there, which would
Hmm.
self-populate. There is two things that will not happen. If you're coming from an old BC version, an old NAV version, for which you never set up 1099s in the first place, the vendors might come in, but it'll all be blank. You have
Right.
to then fill in the box and the form and the box number on the screen. That's fine. It'll self-update the vendor card. It is one of the things that I think should be I don't like the fact that I have to do this manually, run the suggest. I would
Uh-huh.
rather it just run when it's creating the reporting period. I would like it to be self-automated so that it just
Hmm.
runs through and pulls in my vendors automatically, and
Yep.
then I can do more editing after the fact. But yeah,
Yep.
I totally agree with what you found.
Yeah, so like I said, this was me just fumbling through everything. So yeah, so we found that which made sense, and now essentially hopefully that vendor was good to be set up. Um and then we went in and we obviously put in a transaction for this vendor and had to pay it in order for it to actually show up on the 1099 reporting, right?
Yes.
And we did that. So we had this payment, just so for everybody's information, we had this payment out, this invoice out here. We did it back to 2025. So we did that out there for $75. And you'll see that it does have the 1099 information in it. What was quite interesting is when we got into the window for creating the forms, this pulled in, but there's a 1099 checkbox over there to the right on this form. So I'm going to go into that window, which is, I think it's the 1099. I think it's called vendor box setup form. So I came into this particular window right here, right? And I had my Amazon person, which is going to be at the very bottom of this. Actually, nope, this is not it. This is not the one I got into. Hold on. I got to remember what window that was. Maybe it's just the documents. It's here, this particular one. All right, so I have my vendor in here, right? So I'm going to delete this particular one just so we're dealing with only that one. Um, but in this particular window here, I had created this. I came in here, there was absolutely nothing in here, right?
Yep.
And so I then had to say new, of course. And this is where I was kind of like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? Right.
So you can do it another way, but you do it your way
Mhm.
first. I'll tell you my way second.
Okay. Well, I did it two ways and I was like, okay, that makes more sense. The second way, the second way made more sense to me because why would I do this one by one? Right? This is crazy. So I did 2025. I went into Amazon, right? Or the Amazon here. So I chose the Amazon. Um, chose NEC. Now, one thing I do like about this, what I'm assuming, right? Um, and so it's not actually liking me for that one. So what I did actually like though was that it seems like I can have multiple 1099 types per vendor.
Yes, it's the first time ever in all of since the inception of the software that you can finally do one vendor and have multiple forms as you're posting the invoices. So you don't
Right.
you set up one default one, but you can change it on the invoice that you can alter the invoice to pick a different form when it comes to the 1099 itself.
God. Yeah, and that was what I thought too. And in the GP world, we were able to do that. So yeah, completely understood that. Okay, so it wouldn't let me create it because obviously I already had one for that particular vendor. So now if I do Amazon, I hope if I could spell it right every time. And then I can do my NEC. Now I do notice down here, obviously my NEC doesn't pop up, but when I put that in there, one thing I did notice is that at this point, I had an invoice in here, right? So
Hmm.
I did have an invoice. So I'm like, okay, where's my amount? That should be my amount, right?
Yes.
So I've released it, I've done everything. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on with that. When I came back out here, I just said, I'm going to create forms again, right? I was like, I'm just going to create forms for 2025. I said, I'm going to go ahead and choose just Amazon. I did, and I chose everybody. That's how we got that. And then I said, okay, I'm going to choose my NEC, which I did. And then I actually said, there's already one there. So I'm going to hit that replace button, right? When I did that, hit okay. It's like, yep, do I want to replace it? Sure. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I replaced it. I opened this up and I was like, woohoo, there's some dollar amounts, right?
Yep.
So that made me understand it. Now, because we had only done a $75 invoice, this include in 1099 wasn't checked. And so we were thinking that, well, wait a minute, it should be included in 1099. But then what we did was we went in and put in an adjustment in for $600 to get it over the $600.
Yep.
And then it automatically checked the box. So we did everything wrong in the video. It's quite funny. But like I said, it's comical. So we figured this all out. We noticed you have to release it.
Yep. You must release it.
Why? Why?
It basically locks the 1099 data in place
Mhm.
before you can begin the process of filing with the IRS and sending the actual email to the vendor.
If I release it and then I go put in another invoice for 2025, will it let me do that or
Yep,
will it lock it down?
just reopen it, do a refresh
Okay.
just like you did, create
Okay.
and bring the updated data back in and then re-release it and then
Okay.
you'll send the email to part 1 and then you'll do the IRS part 2.
Okay. My next question that I had here was this reports here. So when I went into here the first time, there was nothing in here. And I was like, okay, well, do I do this? I'm like, am I supposed to put these in here or what? I don't understand this window.
Give me a second, I'm just magnifying myself to that window. I think I know which window you're on. You're under
1099 reports. So on that particular vendor, right, there's a reports up here and I add them in manually, but I'm like, well, do I have to do that?
you're not supposed to. There's nothing really to fill out on that from that perspective, from that
Mm-hmm.
side. It's just not necessary.
Okay.
Um, the only real thing you do, at least on that screen, again, and we're sitting on the form screen for the vendor
Mm-hmm.
itself.
Yep.
The only thing necessary to do is after you release it and everything like that, you're pretty much ready to go and start creating your official 1099s to email out, and that's pretty
Mm-hmm.
much all you're going to do next. But you don't need to fill that report screen in option on the screen there that you're on.
So I wasn't sure if I didn't, and I didn't try this. So I wasn't sure that if I didn't fill it in on that screen, would I see them all here? I
You
just
will,
filled them all in again. So
you'll
yeah.
definitely see everything because when you're sitting on your IRS Forms docs and like you are, you opened
Mm-hmm.
it up. There's a report screen. If I click on reports, again, there
Yeah.
are report types, copy B, copy C. Now let me
Mm-hmm.
explain what copy B, copy C, copy 2 means.
Okay.
There are words there. So if you want this vendor to always get the copy B, and that's permanent, you can check it right there. You can also recheck it when you're actually emailing it. It'll do
Mm-hmm.
it anyway. It's like a safety gap. If you want
Mm-hmm.
copy C to go with the email, then you can put copy C. If you want the copy 2, in most cases, I mean, one e-file, I mean, most goes to copy B goes to the recipient. There really is nothing else. um, Most people put a copy B just so they can have 2 copies. One's the master copy and one's an extra copy. Most people put copy B. I wish there was a way to mass change everybody who's on
Okay.
here, like for
Mm-hmm.
everybody just to have copy B checked. Because when you do click copy B, if you go back, one of the nice things is when you do click the word send email, again, released send email. It's going to
Mhm.
include the copy B to whoever the email consent form goes to, and the copy B will be sent as well. So that's important when you're sending it in
Mhm.
that respect.
And that would be just me hitting send. But I see where it says you must set up an email before you can do this, show
Yeah.
email accounts. This is obviously my environment. So,
Yep, that's you. And then,
yeah.
but it will send it. I mean, it will go officially through whoever, after you set your email up for base
Mhm.
BC, it will send it to with the email consent, the IRS email address on the vendor card to them. It will include page one is the actual 1099 e-file
Mhm.
document. Page two is going to be a copy, and page three is the instructions.
Okay. All right. So after I do this, this is where I kind of got a little bit stuck. I was like, okay, am I supposed to do something with the iris transmissions? Am I supposed to create a transmission? What's kind of my next step on this?
So for here, at this point, you obviously we need to start doing the iris transmission. So, um,
Mhm.
excuse me. Um, after you send your email to them, get that out the door. And again, you have all that process and it's been released. The idea now is to set up the iris side. So if you search
Mhm.
in your box, again, it's I believe it's called, and bear with, I think it's called IRS. Um, sorry,
Yeah.
now my brain is going dead on me as usual.
Oh,
Um, let me try to. I'm sorry.
I know which window you're talking about. I can't
I
remember what
want
it's
to
called
go
either.
to the IRS. IRS. It's not IRS setup. It's IRS. Iris. Um, sorry. It's a IRS space. IRS. Sorry. IRS. Give me a second here. I'm getting the right word. I'm going into my world to look it up, so that way I can do it better. But I having a slow.
Here it is. Or is it the user ID? Is that what we're trying to get to?
It's IRIS. Um, you go into the reporting period and open under the reporting period. I want you to click create. Okay, so go back to the reporting period. I knew they changed it.
Okay.
So on the reporting period screen, go back one screen. But yes, that is one place we're going to go to, but we'll get there through the other screen. So we
Okay.
will go. So you'll notice under more, is it more options? Click more options. Or now you look actions. Should be an action word there.
I don't have one. No,
Do you have the word? Do you have under that under when you hit the more options? Do you have the word create IRS transmission?
I
It's got to
don't.
be. You don't.
Mm-mm.
What version are we on again?
And we should be in version 27 right now. So
Okay.
27.0. Okay.
Okay, so what's happening, what you're missing is this one last piece. So 27.2 will
Okay.
add a choice. It's just a choice on the main menu structure. It's
Okay.
just going to say create IRIS transmission, which in turn, when you do that, um, it creates it for whatever year you're trying to report. Again,
Okay.
um, and it'll create this transmission. And as you open it up in this transmission thing,
Mhm.
excuse me, um, it will create that transmission. On there you have the forms to actually go in, and there's a little mini screen. On the very top it says Irish transmission, the year that you're trying to transmit. There's a
Okay.
send button, there's a history button, there's a status button, and then there's
Uh,
an action button that basically allows you to re-update your transmission. So for instance, in your example, you had Amazon. Make
mhm.
believe, for instance, Amazon, you sent it up there and there was an error. The IRS transmission, when you click the word request status, it'll come back and say Amazon is wrong. Again, I'm
Okay.
paraphrasing it, but there actually is a
Mhm.
checkbox that says need correction, and it tells you why. Maybe bad federal ID number, bad social
Okay.
security number, something like that. And you have a button there that you fix it. You'll go in and fix the vendor. You'll go in and fix
Okay.
the vendor card. You'll fix everything. You'll basically click a button that says update transmission, which will resend the vendor information back to the IRS. You
Okay.
wait about an hour or two. It takes about 2 hours, 3 hours before the server updates, and then you can ask for another update. In
Okay.
the end, you'll get everything is green. I mean, or submission status good, 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 or accepted is really the word that's going to be there.
Okay.
And then basically you're done. On the also the IRS transmission screen. Again, if you're trying to transmit something and you happen to forget to do your setups, which is the
Mhm.
screen you adjust on, you do have to go and make sure that your setups are correct. So you do start there and then you'll end on there. So you will go to that screen that you had, because that screen you have to fill in the transmission information, your ID number. There'll also be the tenant number from your BC system. Um, and tenant, I basically, give me a minute here. I'm just opening my version of it. So it's called IRS set.
So which version are you in that you're getting that? Because I'm on the reporting periods now and I still don't have anything under more information.
So I'm on 25.
That's what this one is now. This version is 27.2 now.
So if you go to form setup, what do you have when you click form setup?
Let me go. Let me just verify too. We are on 27.2. Yes.
Good.
Okay. Okay. So if I go to the forms setup,
Yeah,
which should
IRS
be
form. No, go to the one called IRS form setup.
okay.
Do a search for that first.
Okay. Okay. So Iris form setup. Okay.
So you got your detail check, you've got your tenant ID number, you've got
Mm-hmm.
your the word that's in there, the four letters is
Mm-hmm.
more
Is
of
the
the code.
company. Yeah.
Yeah, the company code. And then of course this part where you have to go in, that is the secret ID number that comes from the IRS. It is, you have
Mm-hmm.
to fill out the IRS application. It takes a
Mm-hmm.
little, about say 20 minutes. Oh, excuse me.
Two.
Maybe
Mm,
15, 20 minutes. No, I apologize.
yep.
About 15, 20 minutes to fill out. It takes a few
Mm-hmm.
hours. You'll get back an email saying your IDs have been created. Log in here to get your secure ID number. After you get that secure ID number, you'll come back.
And put that, and you'll be able to put that in there
Yeah, you'll
basically.
come back in. You have to click the email consent setup to make sure that you've done all that format. You'll click your
Mm-hmm.
setup Iris user ID, which comes from the IRS. It's
Mm-hmm.
a series of letters that you'll get off that email from them. You'll populate that answer, and then that ID is encrypted, which means that when you're typing it in, you're only going to get asterisks. It will not be visible to you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in there setting that up, there's a word called Open IRS Consent App. Please make sure you do open
Right
that,
here.
because you have to accept the consent form that actually allows BC to talk to the IRS permanently, and then enter your user ID, and then you click
Mm-hmm.
OK. And now you can start transmitting off of that
To
other
the
IRS
IRS.
transmission form to the IRS.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So that all makes sense to me. That's relatively, I think, okay. Um, so at this point, then am I ready to go ahead and start creating the IRS transitions?
Yes, I mean, for all intents and purposes, you can actually you can click on this and show everybody here the 2025 year you're playing with. So you should be
Yep.
able to create it.
Yep. And then it would say yes.
And then you say yes.
Yeah. And then there wasn't any in here, but yes,
Yeah.
I went into a different environment. Yeah.
So then you go
Yeah.
forward and
I would see them all there.
you would
Yep.
see them listed. What happens is on that little page, the Iris transmission page,
Mm-hmm.
it's a list of vendors. It's just one long list of all your vendors. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't tell you the money that's being transmitted. It's just telling you that I'm about to transmit this vendor. If you want to see the money flip side of this, then if you search in your inbox, if you search for the 1099 vendor overview, I believe it's called, or IRS 1099.
And is that in all versions or is that only in certain versions?
So right now it's in 27.2. However, probably by next week, it'll be in 27, 27.1, and 27.2.
Yeah, so that's where some of this stuff obviously it looks a little different. So it's kind of like, okay, which version am I in? Okay. And so we just said that I just went in and this is now at 27.2, this version that I'm on. Um, and so what was my page that we were talking about? 1099, what's the name of it?
Basically, if you go to the 1099 overview page,
Do I call it overview? There it is, 1099 overview.
yep.
Okay.
And then the overview page is the new page that was just recently designed. It's a great page because um, Here you're looking at every 1099 you're about to
Mhm.
send, but it
Mhm.
tells you the total dollars. So you can actually validate it and drill in, of course, into the amount and see all the transactions. But this is
Okay.
you reviewing it from a monetary standpoint. The
Mhm.
IRS transmission really is like it's about to send it and you're not looking at money anymore.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, that is pretty involved.
It is. It's I I agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you that you know, it needs to be more fluid to the point where
Mhm.
you're sitting there and you're not having to click around, second guess, wonder what, and all that. It's just, it needs more of a just a very simple little instructional plan, layman plan that just says click, 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 done.
Right. And I think it would help them if they did like the assisted setup. The assisted setup to me, if that literally walked you through all of those setups, it would be great because the
Oh
only thing
God,
that
yeah.
it gives you is the very first step in it. And that's like not even a tenth of what the whole setup is for the 1099s, really.
Yeah, you're mostly working in the vendor side. You're working in
Mhm.
how do I fill out the IRS application, which it
Mhm.
doesn't really it doesn't go into great detail, but there is instructions in in the help. It is there.
Yep.
But for the most part, um, it was it does give a good help and tells you how to go to ID me on the web. Well, go to the IRS website. I mean, which
Mhm.
is basically anybody can Google this, which is the funniest thing in the world. But
Right.
if you Google IRIS application for
Mhm.
TCC, it'll bring you to a place. You just have to click on it and you actually fill out the application. Again, about 15 minutes, and you'll be done. But I
Yep.
wish it would just be like when you were on the setup screen where that main you went to that IRS, it should have been a button there like go do application, like something like
Right.
that.
Yep. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I think probably what we had planned and we talked to all of our customers at our Christmas event, everybody's still on 26.5 and we left them there for that reason. Because we felt like, okay, this we're not sure how ready this is going to be and we have multi-entity management customers
Yes.
and we were told by them that, it wasn't ready yet either. So that's why we were kind of keeping everybody back to do the old procedure, right? But even if you're in 26.5, you can activate, right? You can activate the 1099s through the feature management.
The funny thing about that, and this is you're gonna laugh out loud.
Oh,
So
I'm
if you're
sure.
on 26.5 and you
Hmm.
activated it through feature management, there's
Hmm.
actually more setup steps it goes through than the 27 assisted
Shocking.
setup. So it
Yep.
actually did more for you then in the 26.5 than it does now when you're past 27.
So you're telling me I have to set up more in 26.5, but I don't get any more additional features, is what we're saying too, right?
Yeah, you don't get any of the good in 26.5, you don't get any of the nice stuff you just saw like Iris or the overview page. But the funny
Yep.
thing is when you run assisted setup, it'll ask you more questions. It'll actually do some
Mm,
vendor setups. It does a little bit for you more than just more than what you did manually. Like you went through one assisted setup, which took about a second. Then you had to do
right.
that whole vendor setup thing and all this other stuff when it should have been part of a feature management assisted setup. Some of that is in the feature management in 26.5. It was removed.
So I wonder if here's a question. So obviously when we upgrade customers to 27, right? There is that upgrade feature, right? And so I absolutely did that. In this version that I was doing today, because I was like, okay, so upgrade IRS data, right?
Yep.
So that was when I clicked on that. And this is a brand new environment that we just had created. So that's why you'll see it says created during data transfer, because I upgraded this from 26.5 to 27. So yours will kind of look like this. And when I hit OK, this is what I kept getting. For some reason today, I now got it worked. So it's like, why did it work one time and now it's not working again? And that was what I told Steve. I said, when we started this, I'm like, I probably did this 100 times yesterday. And I'm like, what is going to make this work? It doesn't really make any sense to me that nothing was really doing that. But all of a sudden that happened. Well, now something happened, but it's like, well, what does that mean? Right.
So so one of the
Yeah.
ugly things, and I'm hoping we can get more defined in the
Hmm.
manual stuff like you said. So the vendor setup has to take two paths. You can either
Hmm.
take the propagate path or you have to take the upgrade path. The funny thing is each one does something completely different and they don't commingle. So the propagate path, which is one of the things you have in version 27, but it's not available before version 27. It's only available in 26. The
Mhm.
upgrade path will upgrade your data. But again, not available before version 27.
Okay.
Anything available prior, you have to propagate. The propagate feature, what it does is it backfills your 1099 data for the year, as well as the item ledger entry backfilling it has to do to fill in all the forms and the columns that it has to propagate. I know
Mhm.
that there are people who, um, if you're in 26.5 and you're going through the steps, you'll see the word upgrade, do it. I'm sorry. If you're
Yeah.
in 26.5, you're going to run the propagate feature. If you're in
Okay.
27, you're going to run the upgrade feature after you've set everything up. Um, that's
Okay.
kind of where it goes. Now, could you do the propagate feature in 27.1? Sure, you could. Again, the whole primary purpose is the backfill update of for a year. It's converting historic 1099s to the new
Mhm.
way of structure. So
Yep.
again, take the path. If you're before 27, use propagate. If you're after 27, use the upgrade feature.
And I would say that probably one of the very first things you do or you are going to need to do, because I've noticed that it's not working for me now in this version, right? And so this is where I think too, maybe it's because I did go through and I did actually get this to work correctly, right, for my reporting year.
Yep.
So now I've got this, right? And I'll go ahead and say both and I'll hit next and hit finish. So this is telling me that that already exists, right? So I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. So maybe if I go into the report, because it created that on transaction, right? That's what that one says. It says is it created it on transaction. Um, so it's not working. So I'm not able to actually finish this.
Yeah, so if I was taking your environment the way it is, 27.2, new world, new
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there's funny things about the word upgrade. So let me go through the negative side of upgrade. So
Okay.
A, it's not available before 27. B, it converts the historic 1099 info to the new structure.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, it ignores all the current vendor setups. So if you did a vendor setup, it ignores it. So it doesn't know what to do. It copies it from the original transaction. So
Okay.
it's great to convert older years and preserve the historical dates, whereas
Right.
propagate takes a different approach. Propagate backfills the 1099 data. It applies the current vendor setup. So if I have an NEC, if all the vendor setups are filled in, it uses it. um, it basically looks at it, calculates it based on today's setup, and
Mm-hmm.
basically, the vendor is not marked 1099 liable earlier. It'll update all the year-to-date transactions to properly bring in everything as 1099. You might have to go review them just to validate to make sure it didn't do anything made an error in its determination of transaction.
Mhm. So I just deleted the 2025 and I just ran through it and now I deleted it and it actually did that, right?
Oh, good.
And now it brought me to this and it says you've already completed this feature. Do you want to run it again?
You can run it again twice.
Right, but I don't think which I really wouldn't need to, right?
No, not not not
So,
not
yeah.
not necessary.
So if I look at this now and I'm going to go back in because I just got the assisted setup to work because I deleted the reporting period and then recreated it, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to look at this, looks that now my forms period are in there. So that's what's interesting. So because it was there, right? When you transfer your environment, so when you upgraded when my BC upgraded to 26.5
Yep.
to 27.2, it created that 2025 for me, but it didn't create it correctly. So I actually have to go in and delete it, then go in and recreate it, and now my form boxes are showing up.
Yeah.
So
Now
if
you've got all
anybody
now you
else is seeing that problem, that's probably what I got stuck on the last few days, even though it says there's still no data to transfer the upgrade, who knows? Um, but, like, I guess the question is really reach out if you have questions because I've gone through this. Steve has gone through this. It's not super intuitive, and we understand that. And
correct.
that's why we're creating these videos. Like I said, we've been, and hopefully there's some of them might be long, but um, hopefully people will be able to get some information out of this and be able to do their 1099s in 27.2 or 27, whichever version you're going to be on.
It's like I said, I mean, I know it takes in the beginning, it was kludgy and clunky, and then it got
Mhm.
streamlined, and again, you just have
It's
to
still
follow.
kludgy and clunky. I don't know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
I
Yeah.
guess because I mean, I'm biased, but, after doing it so many times, but
Right.
it does need as you originally said at the get-go, it definitely needs a better
Mhm.
instructional piece of document to just basically say, "What do I do to make this work?" Start part 1, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and get you to
Yep.
the bitter end, and not so much I don't wanna say the word wing it, but it's the best word I can think of now.
That's what I've done. But here is the light at the end of the tunnel for that. There's obviously going to be a lot of updates in 2026 for this
Yep.
product.
Yes, sir.
So make
Yep.
sure to go to the ideas site and get those published. And once you do have this all set up, right? Once you've done it one time, next year, all you should have to do, as we saw in the other one, is come into this environment and say, I want to copy this setup. I'm going to create my new 2027 year or 2026 year, depending on what you're creating, hitting OK, and it will copy all of those setups over. So, and then you'll just be able to start running your year. And then you, of course, will do your transmissions at the end of the year. But I think once you set it up once, it won't be that difficult. It's like creating an accounting period, right? In BC. That's what I equated it to.
Yeah, it's super simple. I think after you get through the first year of doing it all and getting through the emails, sending the emails, doing the upload of the transmission to
Mhm.
the IRS, and then
Yep.
next year it'll be a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And Microsoft, I know we've talked about it that they might try to do some things for the consenting to your vendors, being able to say, "Hey, mass send out an email that asks for consent," right? So some
There's
of that
one way you
functionality.
do that. There's a trick, and it's not one that's published or anything, but there's a trick.
Mhm.
If you want to do this in mass form, and then inside of BC,
Mhm.
if you add add the contacts of all your vendors to the contacts of your vendor side,
Mhm.
you can write a mass email campaign to send an attachment called, "Hi, I need you to approve this. Please send it back to me on email." You can actually use BC to do that, not from the IRS side of things. This is strictly using
Mhm.
base BC, emailing people in mass. So you just basically pull all your vendors in that are 1099. It'll self-attach like a PDF that says, "Please sign below. You're consenting to this. Please email," and they just email it back. But you can do it in a mass load using the marketing relationship management side of BC.
Okay.
That's
Awesome.
one way
So,
around it. It's
yeah.
not it's not pretty, but you have to go through a couple of more setups that you've never done before in your life. But hopefully, maybe in wave 1, 2026, hopefully they'll get the mass emailing thing, so you can do an email it. But the other thing is, hopefully in 2026, wave 1, the PDF they send out will be encrypted, which means you
Mm.
need a password. So the vendor will have like a password given
Yep.
to them to open it so that nobody can steal it.
Yeah. So, well, thank you very much, Steve. This has been informational, very, very informational. Like I said, I've spent the last 2 days just kind of digging into this to really understand it because it's not that easy to get. And I just felt like we really needed to get some information out there to customers.
Nah, I feel for you. I mean, I've heard it before from others. Hopefully, they'll have, like I said, a better handout that you can click on and download a handout
Hmm.
in the upcoming months.
Yep. Hopefully so. I know that Alexander told me that they were working on that. I wish they'd have got it done, obviously a little bit earlier. But that's, hey, it gives us things to submit for our MVP submissions, right?
That's right.
So, well, awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day and, have fun doing 1099s before the end of this, before.
I can imagine my head will be spinning off after January 31st, and no more. I mean, there'll still be people going to be late, but it is what it
Right.
is. But
Yep.
yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tanya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.